Hi, I'm Dobby, but you can call me Dabz. Hi, I'm Dobby, but you can call me Dabz. So today I'm reviewing Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee. This book is a book that I read for the Readathon. Yeah, the Readathon, which was a readathon celebrating Korean culture, and all of the prompts for the books all had to do with like some type of Korean culture. And I read this book for the prompt, read a book with Korean mythology in it, I believe that's the prompt that I chose. So a little bit of backstory is that my brother first got this book at like Barnes and Noble or something, and then he read it, and then like months later the Koreadathon happened and he said I should read it, so I read it. So Dragon Pearl is about a 13-year-old girl named Min, and Min is a fox spirit, kind of like a kumiho, and her mom always tells her not to use her powers or show her powers anywhere because fox spirits are usually frowned upon and like seen as like the worst mythical creature. And basically this book is about Min's older brother Chun going missing, and Chun is a space cadet, so it's like kind of like a space officer. It's like a made up role in this story, and Chun goes missing, and everyone assumes that he left on purpose to go find the Dragon Pearl, and the Dragon Pearl is a very magical and powerful artifact that can kind of transform worlds, and it's been missing for like years. Not really missing, like they know what it is, they know where it is, but like they can't get it because it's like guarded. Anyways, so everyone assumes that he left on purpose, but Min knows that he would never leave on purpose because being a space cadet was his like dream. And so Min goes looking for Chun, and that's what the story is about. So I ended up liking this book. One reason that I really liked it is because it had kind of like a different take on Korean culture. And what I mean by that is like most Korean culture-based books, or like books with Korean main characters in them, talk a lot about Korean food especially, and maybe a little bit about like what it's like to live in Korea, or like K-pop and things like that. But the difference with this book is that it explored Korean mythology. And there was like a little bit of other Korean culture and stuff, which I'm going to be talking about later in the book review, but mostly it explored Korean mythology and folk tales, which isn't spoken about a lot in other Korea-based books, and I really liked that about this book, and especially because I am Korean, so like I already know about like Korean food and stuff, but I don't know that much about like folk tales and Korean like stories, so it was fun to like learn something about my culture while reading this book. So basically, if I compare this book to other Korea-based books like Frankly in Love, Almost American Girl, and Wicked Fox is a little bit different because that's also about Korean mythology, but those two plus maybe The Sun is Also a Star, one of the characters. Those books, they had a lot about Korean food, especially like tteokbokki and naengmyeon and things like that. And in this book, it talked a little bit about Korean food. I believe there was like banchan, but like that was the only thing, which is like side dishes. And then there was also like shrimp crackers, which is like a thing, like a 새우 과자, 새우깡, which is the thing that they have in Korea. And those are like the only like two kind of Korean foods that they talked about, and they didn't really talk about anything about Korean media or what it's like to live in Korea because they live somewhere else. They don't really live in Korea. And yeah. So one kind of like problem that I had about this book was that I felt like it was too easy, and by that I don't mean like that the book or like the vocabulary was too easy for me. I mean like the story, kind of like the story or like the storyline was too easy because I feel like the main character kept having these coincidences where they're at the perfect time, at the perfect moment, at the perfect spot where like they overhear a conversation or they find something that's crucial to the plot. And it's so convenient. I guess like that's the word I'm looking for, like convenient or efficient. Like over and over, like easy things kept happening, and I kept waiting for something bad to happen and something to like mess the whole plan up, because that's kind of what makes a story fun if it goes down and up. But that just never happened. And yeah, that did make it like more of a satisfying story to read, but there was no like ups and downs in the plot. Bonk. Yeah. So one thing about this book is that I really enjoyed the characters of this book. One, because I obviously liked their like how their personalities were all very diverse, and like their characters themselves were very diverse. For example, there was also a non-binary character, so it's like inclusive in that way. But also I really liked how each character was a different like mythical creature. Plus there were some like humans, but like the more important characters were all mythical creatures. And I feel like even though that was kind of weird how all the important characters were magical, I feel like that helped because I kind of got to learn a little bit about what animals mean in like Korean mythology. So I thought that was cool. So, as you can see, this book is a Rick Riordan Presents book. And if you don't know who Rick Riordan is, he's the author of the Percy Jackson series, the King Chronicles series, Lost Olympian series. And he writes a lot of books about Greek mythology, plus King Chronicles is about Egyptian mythology, and he's very interested in like mythology. However, he like doesn't know that much about other cultures' mythology, so he kind of has this thing where it's like Rick Riordan Presents, where it's like he kind of recommends them, or like if you see Rick Riordan Presents on the top of a book, it's most likely going to be about some type of mythology. So basically, if you guys are Rick Riordan fans, you guys will probably like this book because it talks about mythology, and especially if you're looking to kind of dabble in other cultures besides Greek and Egyptian like Rick Riordan does, you guys should check this book out. Another thing that I felt like was that the writing style was similar to Rick Riordan's in a way that it's like both kind of middle grade writing. Most of the books that he like presents are middle grade based, or maybe a little bit higher than that. Okay, so the last kind of like thing that I had about this book was that this one kind of relates to like the easy, convenient thing that I talked about before, but it was like kind of unrealistic. And I know that doesn't make sense because it's supposed to be like a sci-fi or like a fantasy, but what I mean is like the character is 13 years old, and she breaks into a spaceship. Plus, she just happens to be an amazing engineer, and she's the best magic user in her family. And it's kind of unrealistic, but I feel like I get why the author did that, because I think this book is geared more towards like my age or like younger like kids. So they made it like the main character younger, so that the readers could kind of see themselves in the main character's shoes and kind of see similarities between them and the main character. I feel like that might be why, but yeah, it's just a little unrealistic, but like I get why, you know? Yeah. So overall, I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it despite a couple like little flaws in it. I really liked how like action-filled and adventurous it was, and I would definitely recommend this book to, like I said before, people who like Rick Riordan, and middle grade plus maybe a little higher people that want to read a sci-fi slash fantasy slash action with like mythology in it. So that will be the end of my book review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, then leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Happy reading! Thumb.